Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, power is taken, not given, joined as always by world-renowned primatologist John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics. How you doing today, my friend?
Doing great on this wonderful, beautiful Tuesday. And if you're watching this right now and you think it's a Wednesday, well, it can't be because our Q&A show is on Tuesdays. So thank you for being here on this wonderful Tuesday. We may have had some conflicts yesterday, but we shall persevere and get to the most important questions of the day, TJ. I noticed what you had for the title here. And
yeah,
I know we talked about this a little last week.
Did we? Did we?
You brought it up because I think on Tuesday is like when the original tweet hit. It was like Monday or Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought, and I had just glimpsed it.
Okay.
But like then it just blew up after that, and we never really got back to it. And boy, did you call that one,
John. So, all right, first I'll reference Ben's comment here. No longer talking about politics, now talking about the real issues. You're goddamn right, Ben. We do our best to be a pop culture podcast whenever we can, and this is a perfect opportunity. So about the 100 humans versus one gorilla conversation that's been all over my TikTok feed. I don't know about everybody else, but I kept seeing these stupid videos pop up, and I kept scrolling past them immediately. Not even 1 second viewership. I even hit a few not interested. I did this for a week, John, for a week, and TikTok stills like, buddy, we're the algorithm. We know what you like. We know what you like, man. They were relentless. They kept going, and I fell in. I've been watching these videos for days now. So I gotta ask John. I don't know if we actually talked about our opinion on this. What is yours? 100 men versus one gorilla. Who you taking here?
So the original knee-jerk reaction was obviously a gorilla. That was my original, as soon as I saw it, knee-jerk gorilla. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, 100 men would defeat a gorilla. And there's going to be some caveats to this.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
just going straight up 100 men versus a gorilla. They're going to win by just sheer mass. And I have more reasoning to this, but if you just think about a gorilla weighs 450 pounds at most, 100 men, assuming they weigh $175 on average, right? I think that's the average weight of a man. That's like 4 times as much as the gorilla, all moving independently. Like, they're just going to win on a pure mass basis. They're just going to outlast the gorilla eventually. And then I saw a zoologist chime in.
Oh, no. Here we go.
And they said something that stunned me. They said a gorilla would struggle against 7 to 10 men. 30 to 40 could take it down easy. And that I was wary of. He had a very good explanation of it. And it's essentially the gorilla doesn't actually have the stamina. And if the humans were dead set on killing it, they were locked in a room, only one side leaves, they're going to be able to outlast it because it won't be able, and it's not a smart creature. But if it's an open field, the gorilla's going to run away against 100 men. It just will. So, like, it's going to get scared first. Now, the other question is, how many of the men run away after the first one gets gored to death? That's maybe the question here, is who the men are does change this drastically.
John, I am very happy to hear everything you said. I hadn't heard about the zoologist saying this, but my arguments are fairly similar. And I wrote down some notes on this here. Is first, we have to set the parameters of this fight. Okay. So if it is 100 people like locked in a cage and there's one gorilla in there, heavy odds on the people. I think absolutely guarantee the people are going to win that. However, if it's sending people out one at a time to fight the gorilla, I'm picking the gorilla 70% of the time.
100%. One time against the gorilla wins.
The only hope you would have is if the gorilla would tire itself out. That's the only hope you would have. You are guy number 87 or something, and the gorilla is just exhausted and collapses. But I don't think that would happen. I think no human is putting up meaningful damage against the gorilla. It's not going to happen. And if, let's say, the gorilla's bloodlusted for some reason, it just wants to murder human beings, it's going to charge through all 100 of those guys possibly. Now, if it's in an enclosed location, let's say with no weapons, no tools, no rocks, no trees, no sticks, nothing that people could use, and you have 100 people and one gorilla, I think that, like you said, I use the same argument with mass and weight and everything, that if these guys weigh $180 each or something, 10 of them is 1 ton, roughly 1 ton of pressure. And sure, like maybe a gorilla could move a ton. It's not doing it several times in a row. That gorilla is going to run out of energy quite quickly. Now, a lot of people crushing up against the gorilla, that weight's going to, even if they just crush it to death. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of humans are going to die in this. A lot of humans are going to die before that gorilla. Let's not kid ourselves here, okay?
A lot of you will die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Absolutely, absolutely. The gorilla, for example, we're saying the gorilla's bloodlusted. It wants to kill these men. The first thing that people are going to do in human nature, we're all going to line up around the cage, and try to hide behind someone and get safety and everything. Some poor bastard's going to get charged by the gorilla, torn to pieces, head squashed like a beach ball or whatever. And then the other people are going to run. The second the gorilla runs into the crowd, it'll take a few people out, but its death warrant is signed. It's over. Because once you're in proximity to the gorilla and you see the guy get mauled, it'll scare you at first. However, when you realize I'm not leaving here, like we have to face this gorilla, you have no choice, then the people are going to go, 4 or 5 people grabbing an arm at a time, punching it, beating it, gouging its eyes. It is going down. Like I said, a lot of people are going to be crushed too. I say 15 to 20 people guarantee are going to die on this, but the gorilla loses 10 out of 10 times. I agree.
Yeah, no, a lot of people will die, but you then get into the other questions,
Sure.
Because I think that 100 men versus the gorilla, it's a pretty obvious answer. There's pretty much no scenario in which the gorilla comes out of that alive, other than it terrified the men so much that they didn't actually attempt to fight it. And that is possible. But if we're talking these are random men, uncoordinated, a lot of them are going to die. I think I mentioned this last week. If this is like a coordinated SEAL team operation with 100 trained soldiers fighting this gorilla who have researched on how to kill a gorilla ahead of time, they've done their prep time going into this, the gorilla probably wouldn't even kill that many people. Like we'd probably be talking 20% casualties tops. And it's an even well executed plan. I could see them getting out with 10 dead.
You would need specifically that case where people were trained specifically for some reason to fight a gorilla and did not mind dying. That's the part that really fucks it up, is that no one wants to be the first guy, or no one, because they know how that's going to end. It's the same reason that one shooter can kill dozens of people, even though if all the people decided to charge the shooter would go down 100% of the time, but no one wants to get shot. It's the exact same thing, except, if you're locked in a room with the shooter's going to get a few of you, but if there's 100 of you, you're going to charge them because you realize you're going to die if you just sit there. So same thing with the gorilla, I think.
And I was assuming that you wouldn't get weapons, because obviously it's a dumb question.
Of course, yeah, they're
going to be able to kill it. But just think about it, gorillas have the same weaknesses we do. We're very anatomically similar. They're just way bigger than us in every way. But it won't take that long for people to just gouge its eyes out. That's something we could do. People are like, oh, you're going to punch it, it's not going to hurt it. Yes, it will. It will hurt it. And if you just gouge its eyes out, you kick it in the balls, it's going to fucking hurt it, just like it's going to hurt us. You can hurt this gorilla. It has the same weak points that we do. We can figure it out. The other question here is, do we get performance enhancing drugs? Because if you just shoot up everyone with some ketamine and send them into that ring, it'll get wild pretty quick.
No, because that throws off the entire thing. It's average gorilla versus 100 average dudes. Because, let's throw 100 Brock Lesnar's in there. No, that's not interesting, okay? That's not nearly as fun. And an example that I like to use is, imagine if, for people saying, a lot of people are saying the gorilla would win, John, which blows my mind. That's insane. But
they're dumb. They're dumb.
Stupid.
So here's the thing. It's one of those bell curve things. It's one of those bell curve things where there's people who believe the right thing and the wrong thing, but a lot of them for dumb reasons. There's a lot of people who think the gorilla will win because they're like, oh, I'm not going to be one of those dumb people who thinks they can beat a gorilla, not realizing that,
exactly. Yeah, you're going too far. Yeah. The example I use, that if you guys out there imagine you ever wrestle a child, like, you're a little cousin or a kid or something like that, say a fourth grader. I would say that gap is fairly similar to from human to gorilla, like that strength gap. It's about that seems appropriate to me. You would have no problem just mopping the floor with that fourth grader. It'd be easy. However, have you ever wrestled 5 fourth graders? You ever try that? You will lose. Yeah, I don't care how strong you think you are. And John is right. It's the weight. I found this out. I was like working with a middle school and I was just running around and stuff. I overestimated my abilities. And then 4 or 5 of them jump you, it's over. It's done. Because, you have hundreds of pounds on you that you're not going to, even if you're able to withstand that force, you're not going to be able to keep up the energy. That gorilla will overheat. It will exhaust itself. And whatever. Now, killing it would not be easy. I got to say, that actually would not be easy. Because you're right. You punch a gorilla, it won't hurt as much as you punch a human, but it will hurt them. But it would take a lot of punches for that gorilla to, rupture a kidney or something like that. Good luck choking it out. I don't know. It would take a lot of brute force with 100 people. You have a lot to your disposal. So glad we're on the same page on this, John. I was confident that you would think the same thing because, obviously, but who knows? A lot of weird takes out there on this.
Yeah, I actually I had a very similar experience when I was in college. I was a camp counselor and we played tug of war. And it was like 3 of us counselors, like college age guys, also like athletic college age guys. And we were like, how many of the kids would it take, these 10-year-olds, to beat us in a game of tug of war? And it was way less than we
fewer
thought.
Than you would think.
Way fewer than you would think. Because it's just the combined force is just going to get outweighed. Because you think you're fighting 10-year-olds. You knock one of them out, probably the rest are going to run away.
Yeah.
Same thing with the gorilla in the wild, but like in a locked cage, no one gets out until one side dies. It's not the gorilla, guys. I hate to
no, sorry, it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's an interesting story. It's just really fun. I like seeing a lot of the takes, and a lot of funny memes have come from it. The funniest ones are from the scenario that a lot of people don't think of, because all it says is 100 people versus 1 gorilla. It doesn't tell you like the rules of the game. We all kind of just make it up. And those who went to the one-on-ones, that's actually a funnier one, because imagining one person walking out to fight a gorilla just to be torn to pieces and then another guy doing it, that's funny. The gorilla has a much better odds in that scenario. I still wouldn't say 100 times out of 100 though, because of the exhaustion factor. You might tire them out, but I don't know. It's pretty fun stuff.
And by the way, guys, this is our Q&A show. So if you have any actual political questions, we would love to answer them.
Or not.
So we can totally do that today. But I do have one tangentially related question here.
Okay.
TJ, what is the toughest animal that you think you could defeat in a fight?
Wow. This is a tier list that we thought of because we had a major disagreement on one animal. Do you remember, John? It was deer. It was deer.
Deer. That's right. Yeah. A deer. Yeah.
And John was confident he could beat a deer. No, you can't, John. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Like, it is not going to happen. Have you like gone deer hunting, like, and like messed with a wild deer before?
Okay. So I want to caveat this, right? Around me, deer are fairly small. They're not big. I've been to places where deer are big. And so when I said that, I was thinking about the deer around me that weigh maybe a little bit more than I do. They probably weigh like 200 pounds.
John.
And I could easily kill a deer.
No, you couldn't.
I could easily kill a deer.
No, you couldn't.
First of all, okay. Also, you're thinking of the deer with the fucking like antlers. And again, they don't have them around here. They don't have the antlers. What are they going to do to me? I'm going to jump on its back, and then what's it going to do?
And what are you going to do is the question.
I'm going to choke it the fuck out.
You're not going to.
I'm going to gouge its eyes out, and then I'm going to hit it in the head a lot. I'm going to stay on top of it.
You felt a deer before, and you think you could choke it out? Like, really? Like, I mean, like it has no fat in its neck, and its neck is like that big around.
If I couldn't choke it out, I go for the eyes, and then I just punch it in the head and kill it.
It is 5 times as fast as you. You'll never catch it. Actually, first off, you'll never catch it.
Well, I'm assuming you're in a cage.
If you're in a cage,
I'll never catch it. Correct.
You could be in a 10x10 room. You're still never catching it. And if you did, the first thing it would do, if it had antlers, all over. But you're right. If it doesn't have antlers, it still kicks like a horse. Like imagine like a, I don't know, like the edge of a table being shoved into your ribs or your thighs or anywhere in your body with the force of a small horse. That's what you got to deal with. On top of the fact that you also can't meaningfully damage it. Yeah, its eyes, which are that small. And so I don't know. Deer,
you can meaningfully damage a deer. Get out of here. These are not like the gorilla. I'm like, yeah, but even the gorilla, like again, this I'm going off what the zoologist said. They said that if you like enough people hit that gorilla, yeah, it wouldn't you wouldn't knock it out in one shot, but like it would take the cumulative damage of 100 hits and it would hurt it.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like a deer is substantially less durable than a gorilla. Is it going to be a pleasant experience? And here's the thing with the deer. The deer isn't going to attack me first. That's the difference here. The deer is not going to attack the human. It's going to kind of cower in fear. And I think I have a chance to jump on it. And if I'm on its back, it's not going anywhere. I have that thing.
Have you ever seen a deer
trying to get me off of it?
Have you ever seen a deer carcass after it's been hit by a car going like 40, 50 miles an hour? It looks fine. It looks fine. And so you tell me, I think
deer,
you tell me
get ripped apart.
yeah. If the car is going like 60 miles an hour, yeah. But if you've got a car that's going 25, 30, 45 miles an hour, deer hit them all the time. The car looks a lot worse than the deer.
That's fair.
And that would never happen to a person. A person would crumple up like like paper mache. So I don't think your fists are going to be doing a great deal of damage to a deer. I don't know. These things get shot and they keep running for like a mile. So I don't know. Okay, but to answer your question, the toughest animal I could beat, we need a list. I can't think of one top of my head.
Zeke says an elephant can whoop my ass and a hippo would take me off this earth. Zeke, yes. Those are maybe the two most dangerous animals you could possibly picked.
Zeke, you're basically saying, I could not survive a hydrogen bomb. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't happen. Yeah, of course, Zeke,
Call me a pussy, but I don't think I can do it.
Hippos kill more people in the continent of Africa than any other animal, more than lions, hyenas, jackals, like whatever sharp-toothed carnivore you can think of. Hippos kill a whole lot more. In fact, a pharaoh was killed by a hippo. I think it was Tutmos. Pharaoh Tutmos.
Really?
Like 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, the pharaoh was killed by a hippo. So these things don't fuck around, all right? They're very dangerous animals. We should pull up a list. Let me see. List of animals.
But someone also said, Colby said, what about a kangaroo? Kangaroos kicking my ass. Kangaroos are freakazoids. Now, there's also there are species of, I don't know if species is the right word, but there are types of kangaroos that you can totally take because they're pretty tiny. But the big ones, they're terrifying. I would not fuck with a kangaroo.
I think you'd have a much better chance against a kangaroo than a deer. I
think you're insane.
Yeah. And I only say that. I would not have said that if I hadn't seen videos of Australian guys punching kangaroos in the face. Have you seen those?
But those are Australian guys. They're different species.
It's different. Yes, doesn't count. Yeah, but just like the deer, if the kangaroo kicks you, it's over. It's done. If you can avoid one kick but I think it's easier to punch a kangaroo in the face than a deer. I think because the deer are a lot faster and they don't have antlers to deal with. So I don't like your odds. But if I had to pick one, I am picking kangaroo over deer. I don't think I can.
Taking the deer every day. We need to get a zoologist on this show, and we'll do Animal Fight Club. What the real answers are? Remember that show? Did you watch that show? What was it called? Something Warrior, where they did different cultures throughout history. Would the Spartans be able to defeat the Huns? And Ultimate Warrior, something like that.
History's Greatest Warrior, something like that. Yeah, something like that. They was could the samurai
Deadliest Warrior?
Okay, yeah, something like that. Yeah, could a samurai defeat a special forces member or stuff like that? It was pretty fun shit. We need one for animals. That's true.
Probably got the Deadliest Warrior there. Yeah, so we'll do this. TJ, this will be a new recurring segment on the show. Which animal can kill Elon Musk in a fight?
I know, because I saw this one very ranked high on people's list, but I'm confident I could win. Once again, given the scenario, eagle. An eagle, I saw as people's one of those no, listen, one good shot, it has hollow bones. Okay, yeah, it's got talons, it's got a beak, it's razor sharp, it's super fast, it's got eagle eye vision. Yeah, it's got a lot of it. It can fly. But if it gets within proximity of me, if it grabs my arm, I'm body slamming that thing right into the ground, right against the wall, and it's not going to survive one hit. It could win as long as I don't hit it, which it has decent odds. It's an eagle; it's pretty fast. But one clean hit, done.
If the eagle was like smart enough to remain in the air and drop things on me until I died,
okay,
it like that it would just outlast me. Like if I could never reach it, eventually it would get me. You know, like it's like that hypothetical about like the invincible worm that if it touches you, you die. Like that's the thing where it's like, yeah, like it would eventually win by a pure war of attrition. But if it grabbed me, it's getting grabbed and it's over. They have hollow bones. You're right. Like birds are incredibly weak creatures because they need to fly. They need to not be heavy. And so that's when I'm always like, whenever it's like the pick 5 eagles or 20 lion or whatever it is, like the eagles are dumb because they're not actually going to be able to.
5 eagles would be a problem. Five eagles would be a pretty big problem. that would be an issue because if one distracts you, the other 4 can just rip chunks of your flesh off.
Oh, if the 5 swarmed you, that would be that would be. Yeah,
I would not.
I'm saying one, even 2 eagles might actually be tough.
2 eagles would be a problem. Yeah, that would be one eagle. I'm pretty confident with. You ever think about how lucky we are that birds are not the size of like dogs? If birds were the size, like your average bird was the size of a beagle or something, the human race would cease to exist. We would all be dead. We would all be picked off and carried away as babies and as infants. We would be done. It would be all over. We're lucky birds are as small as they are. What does Zeke say here? You know what worries me sometimes? So say if a candidate was saying all the rights, he's talking about real shit, all the right stuff, universal health care and other progressive policies candidate going up against a centrist like Biden.
I wait, you don't say if a candidate was like happened in 2020, is there a finish to this statement, or are you just saying
there must
what
be more.
if 2016 and 2020 happened? What would happen?
I did not finish. Okay, there we go.
Okay, finish it for us. While we address huge ass here. So Hugh says an individual baboon is small enough I could probably take it, though it would butt off a limb in the meantime. So the baboon is a really good one because I feel like people don't understand how strong and deadly baboons are. But at the same time, I do think I could take a baboon. And the only reason for that is while it is stronger and could probably kill like most people, baboons are like human anatomy-ish. And I have grappled with very, very large, strong humans that I can easily kill because I have the mental capacity to do so. And so I do think I could kill a baboon. I wouldn't like it though. It would really suck.
I have no idea how strong baboons are. Like I really don't. I have no clue at all. I wouldn't be surprised either way. If I found out they were, not as strong as a chimp, obviously, we'd have no chance against a chimp, but stronger than a person. But if they're weaker than a person, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I really don't know where baboons fall in that chain.
The bite is what you have to be careful. They have a very strong bite, one of the strongest bites of all the monkeys. And so if it bites you in the right place, you are fucked.
All right.
You just have to avoid that part.
Okay, so if I can avoid being
baboons and they're also like unlike the deer, the baboon's just gonna fuck shit up. Like the baboons just they like being aggressive. They're gonna attack you.
Yeah, I just realized gorillas are actually quite possibly one of the worst matchups out there because it has enhanced human anatomy. It's like a superhuman essentially, but like a lot of times these really strong animals, bears, crocodiles, whatever, not all that bright. Not a gorilla is one of the smarter creatures on the planet. So
an elephant is like the one that is different. Elephants and whales, hyper intelligent. Honestly, did I tell you this? So I was in San Diego. I was at San Diego Zoo, and the zookeepers were telling me that they used AI to decipher the noises that the elephants were making. And were able to like consistently get particular sound bites that seemed like they could be names, and so they played it.
Oh wow!
And the one of the elephants went, as if their name was
Oh
being called.
wow,
Then
that's cool.
and they were able to find the names that the elephants call each other. Not only that, but they found out that the elephants in the San Diego Zoo were communicating with elephants that were like in Vegas. Like that's how like far distance they can communicate over.
Wow,
It's
that's cool.
insane.
That's I didn't know that. Elephants are really fascinating because they are really. Wait, are you in San Diego often? My sister, my mom, and dad live there.
I
Yeah.
have some family, so I go there probably once every 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Maybe once a presidency. But I'm getting married there in October, so that's
Oh, okay. All right.
why I was there
If
recently.
you're ever there around the holidays, see if I'm there because I might just. Sometimes I feel liberals would go for a centrist candidate instead of a candidate who wants to give us progressive policy. Yeah, this is like John and I were saying. This is actually a perfect description of the Democratic Party. We have a problem that a lot of progressive. Look how seamlessly we switch in this. A lot of progressive policies are very popular and they poll very well. The problem is that the Democratic Party, at least at the primary level, is not super progressive. Like if it were, they would get through the primaries, and they rarely do, and they certainly don't for president. So it's kind of tricky, but I think that happens all the time, Zeke.
So there's a couple things here, TJ. On one hand, I think that without the political infrastructure system that exists, if you just plopped progressive candidate versus centrist candidate into primaries, the progressive candidate would win at a larger percentage of the time. The problem is that's not really how elections work. It's not like everyone looks at all the policies and decides which ones are going to be best. If you need any evidence as to why that isn't how it works, look at who the president is right now. What happens is what we saw in 2020, right? Bernie, if we were going to 2020, Bernie was right at the top in terms of polling nationally. And then on Super Tuesday, all of the centrist candidates dropped out, endorsed Biden. Obama endorsed Biden. All of the power brokers, the gatekeepers within the Democratic Party, the people that people look towards and go, tell me who to vote for. They said, vote for Biden. And so they voted for Biden, and Biden won. It was a terrible decision. I think we can say that with absolute confidence right now. But it's the decision they made. And to Zeke's point, I feel like it's because a lot of liberals are, I don't know if self-hating is the right word. I think a lot of liberals genuinely do hold more progressive stances and have convinced themselves that progressive policies cannot win in a general election. And I think that they default to safety because they're afraid of losing. And I hope that after 2016, 2020, 2024 of choosing that path 3 times and losing twice and losing the worst time the most recently, that mindset might start to change. Because the Republicans have adopted the strategy of we're going to call whatever the Democrats do the most communist, fucked up shit that you could possibly imagine. There was no longer any losses along the margins by being more progressive, because you're going to be attacked as the most communist candidate to ever run for president, no matter how progressive you are or how centrist you are, as long as you don't have an R next to your name. So why not be as progressive as possible? That's the message that I think needs to be sold for the next 2/4 years in order to win over the liberals that would support progressive policies but are afraid of a progressive candidate losing in the general.
I don't know. I mean, it might be, but it's whether they have these opinions or they are afraid to enact them, or they don't have these opinions. The result's the same. The result's the same, is that they're not voting for the progressive, at least not in nearly big enough numbers. And yeah, it's true that the party apparatus is behind the more centrist, moderate candidate, and for the exact reason that you mentioned, that they're afraid of a Walter Mondale situation. They're afraid that if we go too far left, then the public is going to reject us. And a lot of these folks, pretty much all of them that actually run the party, cut their teeth back in those days in the 70s and 80s. So that's cast the way they view this. But the voters, though, I don't know. I think a lot of it does come down to that the voters aren't. A lot of progressives in the primary, I think a lot of them are older. Like older people vote more than younger people do. And they probably are a lot more centrist. Like maybe they think universal health care is a good idea, but once you start going beyond that, they start, getting a little iffy on it. But what it really comes down to, unfortunately, like John and I talk about all the time, is that people don't vote on policy. They don't. They vote on people they like. And like we've said this many times, if Bernie Sanders was 25 years younger, he would have won in 2020. He would have won the Democratic primary. I sincerely believe that. But that's got to be factored in too. That a lot of people aren't really voting specifically on policy. They're voting on, do I like this guy, or do I think he's cool enough to vote for? And didn't happen.
So I actually disagree with you, TJ, that Bernie would have won if he's 25 years younger.
Really?
I think the same thing would have happened. I think the powers that be would have coalesced to stop him for reasons that all of our leftist audience is probably well aware of, in that the liberal establishment is more afraid of a progressive taking power than they are of losing to a conservative. But I do think that I hate the argument that I hear that, oh, well, if Bernie was going to win in the general, how come we can't even win the primary? And it's like, that's not the question, right? The question is, would he have won if all of these people endorsed him instead? And you can argue, hey, he didn't do the work to get those endorsements. Okay, that's fine. But that doesn't change who those people should have endorsed. If party leadership had endorsed Bernie, if Obama had come out and endorsed Bernie, if everyone had dropped out and then endorsed Bernie instead of Biden, Bernie would have won. And we would be on a different timeline right now because Bernie would have dominated in the general, just like he dominates the general elections for the last 40 years in his home district, which he won from a Republican who held it. Republicans held his district forever before that. So that's the one argument that I always like to take issue with. Colby brings up a great question here, though. To add to this question, do you think the Democratic establishment needed to lose the 2024 election?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they needed to lose it. As in, like, could we have gotten significant change or whatever? First off, we don't know if we're getting that. We don't. I mean, after the first Trump administration, we got Joe Biden. So after everything collapsed and the worst possible position we could have been in actually came to fruition, we didn't sprint toward the progressive, the party establishment and the voters. And look, it's true that Bernie would have had a better shot if Barack Obama had endorsed him, but that's the way the game's played. I mean, it's not like it's unfair that he endorsed them. He endorsed somebody. It's unfair to the rest of them if he doesn't. So I do, well, who knows? I mean, it's just all hypothetical that if he'd been younger, because the party backing someone also happened with Hillary Clinton, and Obama still won. Now, once again, we can't expect anyone to beat Barack Obama. The Republican Party did not back Donald Trump. They backed everybody else, and Donald Trump still won. If you're a good enough candidate, and I think a 50-year-old Bernie would have been good enough, but I'll never know. But that's just my thoughts on. What do you think, John?
You bring up a good point there, though, but I don't think it was as clear in
John. Hillary Clinton in 2008 was as clear. She was more, in fact, she had way more influence. Yeah, in the early stages of 2007 than Biden ever had in 2020. I think the party side was clearly behind Clinton, but the people were behind Obama.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you there. I was, young at the time, so I don't remember quite as much what the vibes were at the time. But and Hugh's agreeing with you here. Losing 16 didn't teach them anything. So,
yeah, it didn't.
And here's my counter argument to that. In 2016, it was widely considered, like, the popular theory is that Trump won by a fluke.
Yeah, that was mine
and
too.
it was a theory that I believed at the time. Right? Like I don't blame anyone for feeling that way. It's like it was a very small chance of happening. It happened. Fluke. So you don't learn from something that you believe to be a fluke. You just don't have anything to learn. You're like, oh well, fuck. We'll just keep doing things the same way, and we're gonna win most of the time. But in 2020, they went, okay, we're gonna keep doing things the same way, and they won. I think that the reason they won was because A, Trump doesn't do as well fighting from an incumbent position. He does much better fighting established power. And two, it was a massive voter turnout because of the pandemic, and people, like, it was the largest voter turnout we ever had. And we know that if voter turnout were increased to 100%, Democrats would win basically every single election, no matter who the nominee is. So those two factors combined, I think, is the reason Biden won. But I think that the lesson that a lot of Democrats learned was, oh, people wanted, we were right. People wanted Biden. People wanted a return to normalcy. And that is not what the fuck people want. People still want the hope and change that Barack Obama promised in 2007. Like, that's what people want. And we never got it. Unfortunately, we're getting it now. In the wrong fucking direction. We're getting a hell of a lot of change. It is what the people wanted. The people don't really necessarily understand what direction they want things to change in, or what that would mean for them. But people are fed up with the status quo, and learning from 2020 that we want to go back to the status quo, that was the wrong fucking lesson. So I do think that we're slowly learning that lesson. I'm surprised we're still having to fight this fight. It should be pretty obvious to everyone. But did they need to lose 2024? No, we wanted them to win 2024. I would have rather had a slow march toward progress than the utter clusterfuck we're in right now. But can we come out better because of it? I think it's still an option.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. All right. What do we got here from Colby? Oh, this is actually going backwards. National parks have huge trouble making trash cans that can be accessed by the dumbest tourists and keep out the smartest bears. That's good. To add to the first question. Oh, wait. You already asked that one. Okay. And Kyle says, I think corporate media funding approval is the main reason why liberals prefer conservatives over leftists. Media portrays AOC and Sanders as unattractive, crazy, unhinged, and Trump as charismatic, funny, maybe sarcastic, and only extreme when he goes against the powerful. Yeah, the narrative.
But like, that's a narrative that exists. That narrative changes. That's exactly how they treated Trump before he won. The moment someone wins and breaks through, that narrative changes entirely. It grants them legitimacy. And that's exactly what happened with Trump. If you look at like how the media reported on Donald Trump in 2015, 2016, they reported on him way more critically than they currently report on AOC and Bernie. It's not even close. Mm-hmm. And so to say, oh, well, the media reports on them this way now, so they can never be viable, I don't think that's true. I think as soon as they become the Democratic nominee, it changes the entire dynamic. And, you know, Colby says here, I can add context to this. Why would Dems choose anyone different? If Harris won over Trump, the DNC playbook won again. So I explained this going into the election, why I saw the most viable path towards getting to a actual solution that we would prefer being Kamala Harris. Because if you get 4 years of, again, I know Biden had his problems, but at least good economic growth under Biden. And you continue that with 8 years of good economic growth under Kamala, which I do think we would have had. I think her policies were fairly sound in terms of, she wasn't going to completely rock the boat, but she would be more progressive than Biden, and we would have continued strong economy under Democratic leadership. You can then take risks. Because I think that risk aversion is part of what gets a lot of liberals to vote for the centrist candidate, even if they prefer progressive policies. They are risk averse. They don't want to go with the big swing when they're scared of what the other guy will do. If you build confidence in the Democrats over that period of time, you can get a fucking FDR. You can get that. But it takes years and years and years and years of consistency. Going back and forth between Democrat and Republican, you're always going to be scared of going back to Republican. And I think that right now, we actually have the opportunity where it's like, oh, it's so bad. We need to swing for the fences. Like you're down 40 and it's the third quarter. You got to just start throwing Hail Marys. And I think that's where the party should be right now. A lot of them aren't. But I think by the time we get to 2026, 2028, it's probably going to be the best chances of that I'm ever going to see in my lifetime. Hopefully, I get to.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, like we got Bernie after Obama. We like Bernie didn't pop up after Trump.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think it can happen. Like it is true. Like what did he say that the Democrats can say that, well, we won with Kamala, so why bother trying anything other than a centrist? But, losing with Kamala, like, the left loses either way from the establishment Democrats, because they'll say, well, the leftists didn't support us enough.
Mhm.
Let's ignore them more. So there's a way they could justify staying centrist either way. It's hard to predict.
TJ, I did have a question come through from I posted asking people to send us
Yeah.
questions. It was a very interesting question. And I really should have pulled it up before coming here. I just remembered it. So I'll look it up right after I ask it to figure out who asked it. But they asked, if you died and became a ghost, let's say you fought a deer or something, you became a ghost, which political leader would you want to haunt?
Ooh, if I could come back and haunt, you know what? Since I'm a ghost, I'm not picking anyone old. I want to pick someone that I can have a lot of fun with for a long time. I would pick, let's see, who's a young Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I know she already believes in ghosts, so I don't have any work. I don't have to do any work to convince her that ghosts are real. She already believes in this magic, superstitious nonsense. So I could be, a poltergeist and, fucking shit up around her house and everything like that. And then she'd be forced to go on TV because it would drive her insane and talk about the ghost that lives in her house. And then, you know what? That probably wouldn't work. She would probably just convince people that there was a ghost in her house. So, but I would probably pick her. I'd pick someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, or, someone that I could have several decades, well, hopefully not, but several decades of work ahead of me. We'll see.
Well, I mean, so like you're a ghost. So, I mean, you got infinite time. We're saying who you're going to get first. I would actually go the opposite way. I'd want to get the old guys before they died while I could haunt them. And to me, like the obvious answer here was Trump, right? But I thought that my knee jerk was Trump. By the way, this is from Alexander, username You're a Bootlicker. So thank you, Alexander, for this question. But I would not go with Trump because I'm worried that if I haunted him, I don't want the occult to get into Trump's brain. Like this, the last thing I want is to go even further down that Nazi rabbit hole. Because at least Trump is not a superstitious man. We have that to hang our hats on for now. But yeah, I'd have to go with Biden because he would believe it. Like, do you know? Like, he's already senile enough. Do you know how much that would torture him? Because no one would believe him, TJ.
No
one would believe him. Yeah, no. Like, and it could be so obvious. Like, oh, you crazy old Biden. I'm sure that that guy kept asking you why you never called for a ceasefire in Gaza. I'm sure that happened, Joe. How about you take a nap? And it would torture him for the rest of his days, and I would take utmost pleasure in that.
And what would be fun about torturing Biden is that every time you tortured him, he would have forgotten the last time. So it'd be a brand new experience for both of you every time. That would seem pretty fun.
That's very funny. Yeah, no, and like I feel like also, Pelosi deserves it a little bit. She just deserves it. I feel like I would enjoy haunting Pelosi, but I also feel like she'd kind of just call it. She'd call the bluff.
Yeah, she'd see through it. Yeah,
she just like, you have no actual power over me. Power is what matters to me.
Still sharp.
Yeah,
I think it was Daniel Tosh I saw. And he said that on his show, or maybe in general conversation when he talks to someone new. He always asks his first question, do you believe in ghosts? And he says he asked that because he wants to know if he's talking to a toddler or not, and which I really love. I think that's really great. I want to try that sometime. It's like, do you believe ghosts are real? Like, am I dealing with a sensible adult here, or are you just, filled with a bunch of magic superstition? I think I should know that, right off the bat.
Yeah. Anyway, do we have any news you want to talk about today?
Yeah, actually, there is one thing I wanted to ask you. I don't follow sports nearly as much as I used to. I used to be dedicated, faithful, following all the sports or whatever, but I don't really care much anymore. But once again, the TikTok feed that knows what I want, it's been feeding me this Shedeur Sanders thing over and over again since he fell out of the first round of the draft. And I'll ask your thoughts on it, but I'll share mine first. In that, when it happened, when Shedeur Sanders fell out of the first round of the draft, I cannot tell you how many videos I saw from people saying this is the NFL colluding against the black quarterback. this shows the racism about the NFL for a strong, confident black man and family leadership. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Are you fucking insane? Are you kidding? I cannot stand it when people take, of all people, by the way, of all people, a rich celebrity Nepo baby D1 football player with a shot of playing in the NFL who happens to be black and saying him not getting drafted in the first round of the NFL is some sort of example of structural institutional racism pervading a major American institution. Go to fucking hell. What is wrong with you? Especially when the first person drafted in the NFL draft was a black quarterback. Explain that one to me. But then people would say, well, it's not necessarily about being black. It's actually about culture and everything, because wearing $100,000 diamond chains and being an asshole to the people who are interviewing you and overestimating your position in life is an inherently black trait. Once again, go fuck yourself. I don't know, John, what did you think about it when you first heard about this?
TJ, I'm just so happy that you are on that side of the fight, because if I had to sit here and
that's why I went first, actually. That is why I went first, yes.
and take the argument that no, this black man I'm talking to is wrong about institutional racism. That would have looked bad. I still would have done it because I'm right, but it would have looked bad. So you're 100% correct. Like, because people are making that argument, right? And it's an insult. You're right. It's an insulting argument. I'll let you take that insulting side, but like, people need to understand that you can be black and have bravado and still get all of the riches in sports. Muhammad Ali, wonderful example of this.
Deion Sanders,
and also Muhammad Ali is a great example who is loud and outspoken in a good way. That should be looked up to, as opposed to And honestly, throughout this process, I did feel a little bad for Shedeur Sanders. Because I do think that he completely fucked up his future by listening to his dad and taking the route that he did. It was because people compared it to Johnny Manziel, and Johnny Manziel dropped more than people thought he would because of a similar issue. Baker Mayfield was selected number 1 overall, but he also had those similar kind of fuck you personality character concerns. But you know what? Baker Mayfield didn't just be like, I'm not going to show up to my interviews. I'm not going to do all of these things. And also, he was a better quality prospect coming out. It was there was another quarterback, the Alabama quarterback, whose name is just leaving off the top of my head, another black quarterback. And he was asked during one of his interviews, what they were watching film, and they're like, he was asked, what do you do bad? What are your weaknesses? And he just started listing things off. And they're like, yo, slow down. Aren't you a little worried that you're listing all of these bad things about your game and you're going to make yourself look bad? And he was like, honestly, I don't want to insult you by assuming you haven't watched the film and have come to the same conclusions that I did. And that's the way you fucking answer that question. Shedeur did the opposite. That is the wrong thing to do. You need to take personal accountability. You need to be a team first mentality player to succeed as a quarterback in the NFL. This has just been proven time and time and time again. And that is why he fell. It's not just that he wasn't that good, which he wasn't. Was he a 5th round talent? No, he wasn't. But was he the 3rd overall, 2nd overall pick that people claim? That was never going to happen, but he acted like it. And that's just a failure to accurately assess his own talent, which is problematic in its own right for an on-field product perspective. Then you add the circus that he's going to be bringing, and it all doesn't make sense. And the reason I really fucking hate it is because the NFL did 100% collude against Colin Kaepernick because of systemic racism. 1,000,000% Colin Kaepernick should have been playing football in the NFL, and that is an actual instance of institutional racism in collusion against a player. This ain't it. And by saying this is it, you kind of give cover to the people who say other real instances weren't real. Because this is not what that was, guys.
Yeah, dipping into the well of this must be a racist act is like you said, it is particularly offensive when there are a dozen readily apparent reasons why this happened that you don't need to stack a conspiracy theory on top of. One of the, I wish I could remember who said this because it was a great, maybe it was Chris Carter who said that the problem, well, one of the many problems with Shedeur Sanders is that, yeah, John, you were talking about how there are plenty of examples of brash, supremely arrogant, entitled athletes. And listen, if you are a Division I athlete, and by the way, not just a Division I athlete, but in the top 1% of Division I athletes who are even considered to join the NFL, who isn't going to be arrogant? Of course you're arrogant. They're all fucking arrogant, right? There, that just comes with the territory. To go beyond that is pretty shocking. But we mentioned people who do display this brash, like Muhammad Ali, and I said his own dad, Deion Sanders. The difference is that it's not just that Deion Sanders was a better player. That's not it necessarily. It's that Deion Sanders was a defensive back, not a quarterback. The way your quarterback acts and behaves matters. It fucking matters. Like, you are essentially the CEO.
You want your cornerback to be a little screw loose in the head. You want them to be a little crazy. You want them to be shit talking. You don't want that out of your quarterback.
No. Like, defensive backs can do whatever the hell they want, okay? Defensive back is probably the hardest position to play in professional sports. I heard a great joke about it. I was like, it is so hard, they don't even let white guys do it, okay? They don't even allow them to play. That one guy.
Cooper DeJean,
Cooper
DeJean, Philadelphia.
Yes, yeah. They let it was him and Jason Sehorn. They're the only two white DBs I can think of. Like, but it was so, you got to be crazy to try to play that position. Quarterback, you're a field general. You need to have your head on straight. You need to look your owner in the eye and say, yes, I'm going to take care of your multi-billion-dollar industry. You don't want a guy acting like that as a starter. You sure as hell don't want someone acting like that as a backup.
I didn't mean to cook this, Colby. I don't know if this is true. I was going to look up this.
It is.
Is it true?
It's true.
The NFL argued in court they should pay black players less due to CTE because
it's true.
Baselines. Yeah, that's fucking disgusting.
Yeah,
and is an actual example of institution.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Shedeur Sanders is not. Huge ass. Did you hear about the prank call thing?
No, funny, hilarious. So
there's a couple levels to this story where when I first heard it, for people who don't know, someone prank called Shedeur Sanders, who was called it. I wonder if our audience like pays attention to.
Maybe they don't even know. Yeah,
I do wonder. Let us know in the comments. By the way, this is good content for you guys because I can talk about this all day. But Shedeur Sanders, he was following down the draft. Someone prank called him, was like, "Hey, we're the GM of this team. You're getting drafted," and he was like, "Yeah." And no, it didn't happen. And I first heard it was a frat from a rival school that did it, and I was like, that's good. That is what college sports exists for. You prank your rival schools. It's all in good fun. Yeah, that really sucks. And I do, as I said, I do personally feel bad for Shedeur because I don't think a lot of it is his fault. But yeah, that's that is a coup for that frat. But when I found out it was the son of the Falcons defensive coordinator, I think it was like, oh shit, that's bad. That's a bad look for the league. That's a bad look for the Falcons. It's a bad look for everyone. He should not have done that. That is dumb. And he's a dumb college kid doing a dumb college kid thing. And I will forgive not actually harmful, dumb college kid behavior most of the time. And I will do that here. But it did change it for me.
Yeah.
With that being the case. But I will also say, if Shedeur had actually went in his interviews with that GM, maybe he would have recognized his fucking voice.
It wasn't a GM for the Falcons. It was his son that did it.
His son is the one who got the phone.
Yeah. And so,
but he said he was the GM for, and I don't know what team he was the GM for.
He said he was the GM for the Saints. He kind of so he said he was the GM for the Saints. But yeah, that when I first heard it, I thought it was hilarious. But I did wonder, how did he get a number that Shedeur would think was the NFL, someone in the draft, right?
So they get phones, like the
I know now.
People like the NFL gives them a specific phone that they will be called on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, from Shedeur's perspective, it's like,
yeah,
this is the draft phone call phone. There's no one else would be calling this phone.
Right. I mean, I know now. At the time, I was wondering how. I didn't know that, and I was like, "How did that happen?" Then I said, "Oh, okay." It had the actual special phone, and the phone the number would have been called from someone who knew the number. Oh, as a family member, it does make it less cool. You do have to wonder why he recorded that. Like, you got to know you're putting your dad's career like in jeopardy here when you do something like that. You're taking food out of your own mouth. Not a bright person. Like the prank, if he'd have found a way to keep it anonymous, which would have been hilarious, but recorded it. He posted the video online. Kind of insane. Well, before I forget, one thing you also mentioned is that Shedeur got bad advice from his old man and saying that, hey, you can act like this, you can be entitled prick, because there are plenty of examples of quarterbacks being entitled pricks in their own way. And by overestimating his how quality of a prospect he was, because you don't have to see you don't have to look far to find situations in which quarterbacks are drafted number one and they say, yeah, I'm not playing here, fuck you, not happening. The biggest close example I think was Eli Manning. When Eli Manning was drafted by the Chargers and his dad said, no, my son's not playing for San Diego, get it now. Yeah, that, and I've heard a lot of people say this, like, well, saying that you're not going to fulfill a contract that never stopped the people. Look what happened to Eli Manning. People, I need to listen to me very carefully. Shedeur Sanders is no Eli Manning, okay? That is why this comparison doesn't work. If he was a guaranteed number one, number two choice, yes, you can perform that. You can be as big of a dick as you want. But when you're on the bubble of maybe starting or not, no, you don't have that kind of leverage. And yeah, he just believed his own hype about it. No one wants the story to be the starting or the backup quarterback. No one wants a Tim Tebow situation where the media is flooding your backup after every game. And I can see why it fell. But yeah, I don't know if I say I feel bad for Shedeur. Maybe I guess I do, because he was taking advice from someone he trusted, his dad. Like you would think, and his dad, to be fair, his dad's been right plenty of times in a row, every time along the way with college and stuff. So yeah, he built up the confidence. But I mean, it is just funny though. It is just funny to see it all happen.
The last NFL talk, because I didn't think you were going to ask about that. I thought you were going to ask about something else, given that my Philadelphia Eagles went and visited Donald Trump this week.
Oh boy,
and that has been quite the story in local sports media. I've actually been beefing with some of the radio personalities on Twitter over this, which is very funny because I'm not doing it as Counterpoint Politics. I'm doing it as John Cooper.
This is John.
And I've actually because I've been working Threads like crazy. Like Threads is now my main platform. I'm getting like millions and millions of views on Threads, like more than a view on Threads doesn't count the same, but still, like that has become my main platform. And putting the most time in, and I've learned how to like do that medium better. And so I've noticed that my tweets, when I'm tweeting at people, I know how to get their attention now. And so like I'm getting these guys' attention, and they're like continuing to come back to me. And I don't know why, but like people are just and something that has frustrated me about it is that like a lot of these people are like, why? Because Saquon Barkley, for those who don't know, Saquon Barkley went and played. Saquon Barkley is the running back for the Eagles, and he went and played golf with Trump and was on Air Force One with him. And he made this statement saying, "Guys, like I golfed with Obama when he was president. I just respect the office." And it's just, I hate the people who are like, "Why do you care what this man does?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to like hang my fucking respect for an athlete based on their political preferences. I think that would be pretty dumb of me. But like, yeah, I should care if the guy goes and eats with a fucking fascist. I don't understand these people who are like, why do you care about this? Because we think he's a fascist. Why would you not expect? Maybe you disagree with that, and that is fine. But if someone tells me they think the president's a fascist, I'm going to expect them to be upset when their favorite football player goes and fucking plays golf with him. Wouldn't you? Like, I don't understand why. And I think it's because people don't understand. We've talked about this before. They don't know what that word means. They don't see it as a description. They just see it as a pejorative that you call someone an enemy. And it's like, no, I think he's a terrible human being who's causing incalculable harm to good people, innocent people. And yeah, I think that doing a PR stunt with that person is not a good thing to do and deserves criticism. And if you're going to say shut up about it, you're also adding to the fucking fire. You should shut up about it then. If you don't care, stop caring.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you care about this or not? It reminds me of the Little Mermaid controversy back when there was a black Little Mermaid, and I kept seeing conservatives make videos. Now, listen, I don't care one way or the other about the Little Mermaid, but let me do a 2-minute video telling you my opinion on why it's bad that she's black. Okay, buddy, do you care about this or not? Because you will never find a video about me talking about the Little Mermaid and whether she should be black. But you can find it's like the trans issues. They say they don't care, and then they expound on it. But yeah, this is something, if you have a football player that you like you're a fan of this person, and you find out this person's a fascist, I think it's cool, or at least has no problem. You know what? It would be different. It would be different if, say, my favorite player or someone, anybody, went to the White House for the presentation or whatever. I prefer they not. And like Jalen Hurts didn't. Plenty of people don't. But if they went to the White House and they had like the photo or whatever, that's one thing. Going and personally hanging out with them for a day, you're sending a message. You didn't do that on a whim. You knew that people would see it, and you thought this would be beneficial to you. There's a reason you allow cameras. There's a reason you're walking off the helicopter or the plane with them or whatever. You were perfectly fine with it. You got to be fine with the backlash. I can't believe people are upset about this. I went to hang out with the president. Yeah, go to hell. And listen, for those of you
he said, get this political bullshit out of my mentions.
Yeah.
Like, it's the huge ass, and I've seen this before. He's like, huge ass, like, come on, guys, why are you making a visit to the White House political? Like, but that's the way people a lot of people genuinely feel and have felt in this country for a very long time. And like, I think that's the thing that we got to just like kick that fucking thought process to the moon, because it's harmful. It's harmful to think that caring about politics is annoying or wrong in any way. We need to encourage more political discussion in this country.
Yes.
And when I say that, I don't mean the shit that me and TJ did. Like this, while it has its value, doesn't change shit.
Mm-hmm.
We need to encourage more interpersonal political discussions and communications in this country. And that should be encouraged at every sequence of events. If that annoys you, you're part of the fucking problem.
Yes,
you wonder why things never get better and it's always dysfunctional. It's because people don't care enough. That's why.
Yes, and I was about Saquon Barkley. Like, if you've seen anything about Saquon Barkley over the last couple of years, you're not shocked. You're like, okay, all right, I kind of figured that about Saquon Barkley just from what I've seen in the past, but this confirms all my suspicions.
I think he would have voted for Kamala. Like, I think that he would vote Democrat, and he's just kind of like, I don't see what the problem is. It's the president. Of course, I'm going to hang out with the president. I could be wrong about that. I don't closely follow Saquon. Maybe you got some inside intel that I don't have, but I would guess that he generally would have voted against Donald Trump. He just doesn't. He's just kind of a dumb. You know, he's a professional athlete who focuses on his job and doesn't really follow this shit.
I get strong Patrick Mahomes vibes from Saquon Barkley, and a lot is like with his spouse and the stuff that she said in the past. Like, okay, all right, this is checking out for me here. But John mentioned that What?
I say you got a problem with the interracial dating there, TJ?
No, some stuff she said. I said not who she is, and stuff she said. Yes,
TJ's about to be like, these black men need to put the snow bunnies down.
And so I'm turning to Dr. Umar over here. No, Saquon Barkley has turned me into Dr. Umar. No, but John is right that I encourage people to talk about a lot more of the stuff that we've been told not to discuss. How much you make it work, religion, politics, specifically politics. Like, politics are probably number one on my list right there, because John's right. A lot of people, like, maybe Saquon Barkley feels this way, maybe not, but he wouldn't be the only person. You'll still hear it today when people, mainly from conservatives, where they'll say, look, you shouldn't lose friendships over politics. You shouldn't be mad at someone because they have different politics. Yes, you should. And it's perfectly fine, because your politics are a direct reflection of your values. And if your values are dog shit, if your values are, I respect people differently based upon where they were born, or, I don't think women should have the same privileges and rights as men, due process is only for certain folk in this issue. No, those are horrible values. And if you don't want to judge someone on their politics, fine. Your values, you should judge people on. You should judge them on it all day long, and you shouldn't feel bad for it.
All right. That seems like a wonderful point to wrap up on, TJ, unless you had anything else you want to talk about.
Nope, I think that's it. Tomorrow on the main show, we have EK joining us from What's Good English, so it should be a pretty good time.
Wonderful. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 6:30 EST. This has been The Left Wing. See you later.
Later. Oh, we got to